Hey out there, legal warriors. In this video, I'm going to cover something very important. And if you're thinking about filing a restraining order, this could be a really important video for you. When is it that filing a restraining order against somebody may backfire? There's a lot of examples, some you probably haven't thought about. So if you're interested in this area of the law, stay tuned. This is the video for you. My name is Attorney Lance Fryrear. I'm a defense attorney in Lynnwood, Washington. My law firm's been defending people charged with crimes all throughout Washington State for more than 20 years, and I'm putting out these videos to help educate the public. So if you find this useful, please like and please subscribe. More people get to see it. More people get the help they need. As always, I'm going to jump right into it. Let's just start with the basics. What do I mean by a restraining order? Well, that's what the public calls it. A restraining order is where one person, the petitioner, is asking that the court restrain the other person, the respondent, from contacting them, from possibly living in the same residence as them, from communicating with them at all, upon pain of a criminal charge if that order is violated. And who are the type of people the situations where you might be looking to file a restraining order? Well, you might file one against your partner, right? Boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. Someone's engaged in acts of domestic violence, pushing, shoving, hitting, threatening, stuff like that, and they need protection. Or they want that person thrown out of the house because they need protection from them. That's a very common situation. So it's also anti-harassment orders. That's for people that aren't in a dating relationship or family or household member relationship. Think about an anti-harassment orders. Maybe it's the neighbors that don't get along, right? Or maybe it's unrelated people where one is making, online threats or slandering or defaming them, stuff like that. And the standard for an anti-harassment is basically think about unwanted contact, unwanted threats, stuff that causes substantial emotional distress without a legitimate reason or purpose on part of the respondent. There's also SA type orders where someone has been a victim of a very serious event, obviously. And there are a couple others, such as extreme risk about guns, stuff like that. So what if you're in this situation wanting a restraining order? Well, first you have to know what the law is. In Washington State, it's not called a restraining order. The legal term is a protection order. And if you want to look any of this stuff up, go to RCW, that's Revised Code of Washington. You can just type into your browser or your phone, RCW 7.105. That's going to bring up the protection order statute, and it tells you how it all works. But again, this video is how filing an order, when it might backfire, and I'm going to go through those type of things now that we've covered the basics. So the first and most obvious and important way filing a restraining order might backfire is it might cause the respondent, the person you want to be restrained, to file their own order against you, right? Let's say that you're filing an order because you don't want them talking about something that they say you did bad online, and they're posting stuff online, they're on Instagram, they're calling you out for doing something you don't think you did, so they're hurting your reputation and they're making you emotionally hurt, so you go ahead and file an order against that person because you think that's going to shut them up. Well, probably what it's going to do is going to just make them file their own order against you for whatever it is they claim that you did. And now you just made that situation way worse. Hell, it might even make them go to the police to report whatever that you might be complaining about. And so it could be another situation where, you're filing a domestic violence order against your partner. And since you filed one against them, they file one against you. Now you're in the system as a respondent also. Just because the petitioner files an order first, that in no way stops the respondent, the person the petitioner is trying to restrain, from filing their own separate action against the petitioner. In fact, it's getting more and more common because the way the law reads, it's not a balancing test, right? If the petitioner is claiming that the respondent beat them up a lot and stuff like that, and the respondent says, well, I'm just going to defend it because the petitioner beat me up too. Well, if the respondent doesn't have their own order, and they're in the petition, it's just the petitioner's case, the court doesn't care about whether or not the petitioner also beat up the respondent. It's only one way in the law. Look it up. RCW 7.105 says nothing about any type of balancing and those type of things. It's just one way. So the only way a respondent may be able to equal the playing field, if they've also been a victim in their mind, is to go file their own order. Now, petitioner, if you file an order, now you've got one against you too, that's sort of backfired, didn't it? So it's something to think about. That also goes for the neighbor cases, right? You file an order against the neighbor because they're complaining about, your music's too loud. Well, believe me, they're going to have some complaints about you too. And they may file an order against you. So that's one of the big ways we see a backfire. Some people call it a retaliatory order. I just say, look, the other side decided to take their complaints to court just like you did, and maybe they never would have if you didn't start it. So that's not a reason to not do it, but it's something to think about, especially if they're the type of person that you're filing against that might have something to say against you. What are some other reasons why we might not want to file an order? Well, sometimes it just increases the conflict, right? And, it gives, if you're dealing with the crazy person on the other side, you're the sane person, petitioner, and you think the respondent's the crazy person, you go file the order against the crazy person, are they going to get more or less crazy? What do you think? I think more. So it's, and will this order really provide you the protection that you need? Or will it not? Will it just make the other side more sneaky about doing whatever they're going to do? So I'm not telling you shouldn't file one, but these are things you need to think about. Also, let's say it's a partner, right? You're thinking you're married and you're thinking about a divorce, stuff like that. Once you go file that order, the chances of this case being resolved more peacefully, probably the percentage of that probably goes way down. Again, something to think about that could happen. Another reason that filing an order can backfire in someone's mind is sometimes people file that protection order and now their anxiety level, instead of going down, it goes way up, right? The other side's going to come in and fight against your order. You're going to have to go to court, and the other side may get an attorney, and that attorney may be really good at making you look real bad, right? And saying all types of nasty stuff in writing that's going to get filed in the courthouse in a public record that any of us can get, right? Do you want all that dirty laundry in the public record, even if what they're saying is not true, when your future employer can read it, your future partner can read it, people that are against you can read it? So just think about that's another way that it can backfire, because all of this embarrassing private stuff is now being brought out by the respondent against the petitioner, because the respondent has the right to say, hey, what the petitioner is saying is not true. Here's how terrible the petitioner is. And sometimes they bring receipts, right? They bring the text messages where you may not look great. They bring the photos where you may not look great. They bring the videos in some courts. And so, again, this is just something to think about. Everyone still needs to file what they need to file to protect themselves, but we have to know that it's all not cookies, cakes, and roses when we're dealing with this type of litigation, right? It sort of gloves off. We're criminal defense attorneys primarily, which means we're typically trying to play nice and work with prosecutors, things like that. In order cases, there's no playing nice, right? It's war, right? Because it's one version of the facts versus another, and a commissioner or a judge who gets a few minutes to decide who's right. And, it's like almost playing dice at times, right? Anyone ever gamble out there? It's a bit, you're rolling the 7 or you're rolling the snake eyes, right? You're hitting the blackjack or you're getting the 16. What is it going to be? But when you get yourself into the system, you're exposing yourself to those things possibly happening. Another reason not to file an order is that you could lose, right? And if you lose, you feel pretty bad about losing. And believe me, these used to be auto stamps for petitioners when this terrible law, started a couple years ago. Less so now. Commissioners and judges are beginning to figure out how to actually work within this law to, at times, provide reasonable protections for the respondent. Still rigged in favor of the petitioner, but more and more I'm seeing common sense is beginning to take root and blossom. So hopefully, from my point of view, more of that happens. And I think the final reason that you have the filing an order could backfire is if you do get an order filed against you and you happen to lose your order and they happen to win their order, the statute allows the court to award attorney's fees to petitioners. So if your order caused the respondent to become a petitioner, now not only do you maybe have a restraint, you might even end up having to pay their fees if things don't go how you want. So just things to think about. We have a pretty good protection order practice here, and I always share, I walk around the office, what do I talk about now, right? I've talked about so many things, and one of my protection order team said, how filing an order can backfire, because we see it happen all the time. And if we're counseling someone who wants to ask us about filing an order on their behalf, we really go through the what ifs. And if they know what they're getting into, they know that the other side may get an attorney, they know it's going to be stressful, they know it's going to be costly, they know that dirty laundry is going to be put in public, and we're there for that if they want this order, but we want to get those pitfalls out ahead of time, so we go into it with our eyes open, and we try to avoid unpleasant surprises. So I hope you found that useful. If so, please like and please subscribe. More people get to see it. More people get the help they need. And more importantly, you got a criminal matter in Washington State. You got a protection order even. Feel free to reach out to my firm. If we get on board, we'll identify a way forward after we listen to what happened, and we'll be there for you. Thank you.